There is considerable overlap between the common English meanings of the words authority, leadership, management, and administration, often leading to confusion. We therefore need to be more specific about these meanings. Authority means having power over the actions of others by means of inducements and threats of sanction that are external to the immediate task, but the word has another meaning too. It also means being a respected expert on a subject. We refer to the ability to threaten punishment or offer reward as power. French and Raven proposed in 1959 that power comes in different forms. Coercive power, the power to punish. Reward power, the power to reward. Legitimate power, power by virtue of position. Expert power, power gained from experience and knowledge. Referent power, power gained from followers' respect and admiration. Leadership means the ability to bring a group of people to effective action. In most discussions about leadership, this includes the administration of power. With a command structure in healthcare institutions, such as the UK's NHS, there is often ambiguity around who has power for frontline operations. Consequently, recourse to power can lead to conflict. Even if it's clear who has power, it is often more effective for them not to exercise it overtly. For this reason, we draw a distinction between leadership with and leadership without the exercise of power. Management and administration necessarily involve the use of leadership with power, and ideally of leadership without recourse to that power. While administrators are driven by process, achieving an objective or completing a task, leaders are people-driven. People in charge of others take on a role within a spectrum that extends from administration at one end to leadership at the other. The term management does not of itself imply a specific position on the spectrum, and managers tend to take up a position that will depend on their personality, interpersonal skills, and foresight. Not everyone has a job where they can exercise power, but leadership can be exercised in many ways, depending on a person's skills. This makes leadership development training relevant to everyone. Leadership is also ultimately more effective than power. Power can take a horse to water, but cannot make it drink. Leadership takes a horse to water when it is thirsty. Leadership is better than power. If something needs to be done, it will be done better, faster, and more efficiently if it is coordinated by leadership than if it is coordinated by power. Only when leadership fails is it necessary to resort to power, and the frequency with which people do resort to power is inversely proportional to their leadership skill. The defining quality of leadership is the ability to bring multiple people to a common purpose. That is, a common purpose, not necessarily the leader's purpose. In the context of healthcare staff, it is generally the ability to motivate and direct those around them to achieve the best outcome for the patient. Clinical staff must be both managers and leaders. They need to form constructive relationships with other managers of the service, dealing with misunderstandings, giving information, and developing a common purpose. Now let's look at credibility. This is that quality in a leader which means that their team members respect their opinions. There are various aspects to credibility, such as reliability, honesty, respect, genuineness, empathy, intelligence, and vision. If a leader is thought to be foolish or inconsistent, then it is likely that when they make a suggestion or issue instructions, their team members will not be easily persuaded that they will prove successful. Credibility is a vital but difficult area of leadership skill. It's impossible to go on a course and learn how to be credible, or to wake up one morning and decide to be a credible leader. Credibility is something that others observe in a leader. The leader has little direct, short-term control over it. A leader's credibility, in the eyes of others, is based on the consistency of their behaviour over time. Most are able to put on a good impression for a short time during the honeymoon period, but the longer the team spend with the leader, the more accurate a view they will have. A leader will find it more difficult to persuade the team of credibility if they're not demonstrating it every day. People view the credibility of others according to a range of factors, including their own personality type. Guardians are inclined to assume that people in authority must be credible unless proven otherwise. They respect reliability, serious-mindedness, and worthy objectives. Artisans give credibility to people with grace and taste. Idealists are inclined to afford credibility when not so much on effectiveness, but on credible motivations. Rationals do not accept the credibility of leaders because of their position, but because of their grasp and usage of reasoned explanations for their actions. Feeling people find sensitivity credible, whereas thinking people find logic credible. Now, the best leaders are able to engage all of these personality types by using characteristics that each of them look for in a leader. A good leader will not only have these characteristics on tap, but will also be able to identify the personality type of someone they're dealing with and use an approach that is credible to them. And they do this subconsciously. This skill is not uncommon in effective leaders and is generally learned from experience and comes automatically. It is described in Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence and is part of the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership theory. In general, the credibility of leaders increases with their level of intelligence and education, and it falls with increasing levels of intelligence and education among their followers. The issue is not the absolute level of intelligence, but the difference between the intelligence and educational levels of leaders and followers. This is particularly relevant in healthcare because the medical profession has been selected for training on the grounds of academic achievement. It can be difficult for anyone to appear credible to the medical profession without having a similar level of intelligence, equivalent professional qualifications, or a higher degree. This raises the bar rather high for members of healthcare organisations who have a lower level of education. It also means that the medical staff of healthcare organisations are among the most difficult to lead and influence. In general, it is not possible to alter one's own educational level to suit that of the target audience, but there are certain controllable factors which we'll come to later on in the series. Leadership is an emotion-laden activity, and various attempts have been made to model and measure people's performance with emotional issues and derive measures of emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman measured the success of PhD students who graduated from Harvard University. He defined what he called the Emotional Intelligence Quota, EQ, to quantify these skills. The quota consists of 5 domains: knowing one's own emotions, managing one's own emotions, motivating oneself, recognizing and understanding other people's emotions, and managing relationships. He found EQ to be more closely correlated with success than intelligence quotient, IQ. Others, however, have questioned whether emotional intelligence is really a distinct psychological entity as opposed to another way of expressing personality traits, and questioned its value in predicting career success.